Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I am Bryant Bauckham, and from UD Arena in Dayton, he is publisher Andrew Jones. We are here with another daily drop. This drop topic is UNC basketball. The Tar Heels just defeated San Diego State 95-68 in the first four of the NCAA tournament. And a tournament we didn't know if UNC would be making, but they finished the regular season strong and looking to reach the heights they had said they could reach, but finding that validation and vindication had been something UNC is looking for. We'd heard all these things you mentioned to AJ from players of they know they can reach this next level. They know what they're striving to play like and they know what they can play like. And finishing the regular season 8-2, their two losses to Duke, losing in the NCAA or ACC tournament semifinals. But tonight the Tar Heels, for themselves, really, we talked about, came out and showed what they were capable of and what they've been looking to do all year. We mentioned their defense in our three things earlier tonight. A big 20-2 run in the first half for UNC. And the most points San Diego State's given up since 2006 in a 40-minute game. But just the validation of their play, I don't dare say peaking, but playing their best basketball of the season at the right time. And we've heard them talk about this after games time and time again. And, we were waiting to see what does that good basketball look like. And they brought it tonight, really finding that validation and vindication for what they said they can do all year. We haven't seen it, but tonight they were taking the steps towards it, but tonight they really put everything together and really show what they can do.
I talked to Seth Trimble on Monday in the locker room about validation and vindication, and it was Seth's great to talk to, and he's getting better and better. And he accepted it that we're validating and vindicating. But what's interesting, and I had a little bit more with him tonight about it, and he tweaked his tune a little bit because I think he wanted to make sure that we understand that they're not as determined or hell-bent on validating themselves to John Rothstein or all these national pundits that are ripping them. Even people who do political / sports stuff like Clay Travis, they're not trying to validate. They don't know who most of these people are. They don't care who they are. So they're not really trying to validate themselves to them. And they're not trying to vindicate what people have themselves to others because of what people have said about them. It's to themselves. If you go back and watch post-game interviews after losses or ugly wins, like the BC game or the Pitt game or something like that, so much of what RJ would talk about, Seth would talk about, in particular, Jay, when we've had him, there was a period we didn't talk to him for a while because he wasn't playing. That was a head scratcher. He wasn't playing. And they kept saying, we know what this team can be. And as I said in the Three Things video, there were times I walked away from RJ thinking, I want to know what RJ's seeing. Like, I think this team could be pretty good. We thought all along this team could be pretty good, but I started losing belief in that, having to watch every one of these games in person and just seeing them stink a lot of the time.
Either get down by a lot or be in the dogfights with teams that finish near the bottom half of the ACC.
Or get up. And then they started getting up and they were holding on to leads, and they would have just awful sequences defensively, dribble, drive and fall, terrible passes, turnovers leading to points, getting killed on the glass. It was always a lot of different things. They walk into a game and they might be really good in 3 or 4 areas, but you also knew 3 or 4 areas they were just going to be terrible in that night. And they had to find a way to overcome it. And that's how you beat Notre Dame by a point. That's how you beat State by a point. That's how you go into overtime against BC. A lot of stuff you're just not doing right. And they would repeatedly say, I know what kind of team we can be. And I'll go RJ most because he's seen more than the others. And he knows what it looks like being a number 1 seed, because they were last year. He knows what it looks like to get hot and go to a national championship game, because they did that as sophomore year. So he understands. He also knows what it looks like to just not get it going. Like 2023,
he's been on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, they won 20 games, but they weren't very good, obviously. That's why they didn't get in the tournament. So when they're talking about validation and vindication, I think a little bit of it maybe makes it more comfortable to speak about because of the narrative out there. But I honestly think that these guys stopped listening to that junk Monday. If it wasn't for us asking about it, I mean, they know who Rothstein is. Everybody, they all knew who Rothstein is. I mean, him having to be here, that was part of it. But I guarantee you, if you ask him what some other famous, and he's not famous, but in the world of college basketball, he's well known. A lot of these other people said they won't know. This is about them. This is an opportunity for them to validate themselves to themselves, to what they thought they could be, to what they talked about in October, to what they talked about after a loss in December. You know, the Florida game, for example, turns out that Florida might be the best team in college basketball.
Certainly playing like it right at the
they're
moment.
Right there with 5 minutes left, and they didn't close it. And RJ's like, we got to learn how to close these things because we could be a really good team. We can beat teams like this. And that steadfast belief coming from their best player, their most decorated player, I think was very important. He never wavered. I thought after Clemson, I felt like maybe RJ, maybe reality had started to settle in with him. But whatever that was at that moment, he changed it on the way back to Chapel Hill and into the next day because they had so many great practices that week. They had 3 of them, and a lot of that was because of RJ. So validation and vindication. People are going to look at the header on this daily drop and think, wow, you know, these guys are out to put a middle finger up at the world. And they do. Mm-hmm. Jalen Withers admitted, in fact, I'll say this, I can't read it verbatim on here, but the great Brett Friedlander, who just won the Skeeter Francis Award at the ACC tournament this past week, which is like being inducted into the ACC Media Hall of Fame, sent me a text with about 8 minutes left in the game and said, this is the biggest blank you ever at the NCAA and at all these people out there in NCAA tournament history. And Brett has a tendency of, you know, making very, very strong statements, but I told a couple players that. And they kind of laugh. And Alan Lubin didn't really run with it too much, but Jay Witt did. Said, yeah, it was a middle finger. So there's some of that, but also he's older and he can handle maybe thinking about the other stuff, but also being in connection with the team. But Bryant, I think this is about them because you can only get so much fuel from that.
Yeah, there's only so much you can take from that as a motivational factor, but it still comes down to the X's and O's at the end of the day. Like, you can be as pissed off as you want about something, but if you can't execute the way you want to, that's a little bit meaningless. And the validation factor for UNC, you mentioned all the things they did tonight were things that we hadn't seen all year. I mean, the big runs for one, but then they didn't get down. But just defensively, like I said, that's why they couldn't close out a lot of games. Was, yeah, sure, they couldn't score, but they couldn't play defense when it came down, when push came to shove.
Defense leads to points.
The validation for them comes from doing the things that were not happening, whether it would be earlier in the year in those tough non-conference games, or when you're beating Boston College in overtime, or beating Notre Dame by 1 point, or NC State by 2. These things that they're doing now is something you would have ultimately expected from this team at some point during the regular season. Maybe it's happening a little bit later, but they were ranked top 10 for a reason. There's talent on this team. They're playing like it. They're a talented team. But like I said, keep waiting for, like, we hear about it, but we don't see it. It's like almost like the boy who cried wolf. If you hear it, but like, do we really believe that this team has it? And then now they're showing us, like, hey, it's maybe didn't happen in the first 20 games, or heck, even the first 30, but it's here, and they're playing the way they feel like they should be playing, or should have been playing earlier in the season. And that's what matters. I mean, playing their best basketball in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's only one game, but it is still a true statement. And it's,
they have an SEC team coming up that was for a while in the top 10 this year. Chris Beard's a
Ole Miss is an experienced team.
They 10 seniors. Sean Padula, remember him from Georgia Tech or from Virginia Tech?
Jamin Brakefield, former
from Duke
Blue Devil.
Yep. I think this is. I think there's a lot. As you're talking, I'm thinking more about how these guys are processing stuff. And if I'm Hubert, I'm okay with the noise, but I want to make sure that they don't go too far into the noise. Mm-hmm. They don't want it to become a fashion statement. It's more Like when I say fashion statement, like an accessory, you could wear a brooch or a watch or a necklace. It can make an outfit, whatever, but you don't have to go out in public with it, but you really need to wear like pants and a shirt. That's the basics, right?
Yep.
So you can use this a little bit, but you don't want it to be too consuming, which is why their inward attempt at validating what they've thought about themselves all along and then vindicating themselves for thinking that. And for some of the things they said back in October and November, the things they've said on the record to us. And they're having fun.
It looks just like a different team. Which
they want to keep playing ball. They want to keep playing ball. And I'm fascinated by this. I love the human nature element of sports. We're watching it right now.
I mean, if you're RJ Davis or Jalen Withers, RJ didn't play poorly in the Duke game, but only scored 8 points, not his strongest outing. And then Jalen Withers with of course, the lane violation that we talked about for a while. The human aspect of that, of those guys for at least a moment could have thought that their college careers might be over. And you're getting, for lack of a better term, a second chance to
Bryant, I walked up to RJ in the hallway Friday night after Duke, and I asked him, what his emotions were. There were a lot of people that were very critical of that question. It's a normal question you ask in that situation when a guy may have played his last game. RJ wouldn't answer, didn't want to answer it. He wasn't upset about the question. He just didn't want to go there because it was going to take him a place he didn't want to express. Jay Witt having to come out with Hubert. You think about that night. And they got through that night. I think Hubert being there for Jay Witt was massive.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about
like on a human level, much less just basketball.
Okay, they've been playing really well, but maybe there was another level to get to, the one that we saw Tuesday night. Maybe Hubert sticking up for his guy the way he did and speak on his behalf the way he did just was something that just took him to another level. Because I've been around a lot of coaches that have thrown guys under the bus. I've been around a lot of coaches that say, well, we coach that all the time and I can't, they didn't do that. I mean, Hubert's done it himself before. When guys step out of bounds with the ball, I never stepped out of bounds in my career. He hadn't done it this year. He's growing and maturing. We've talked about that too. He's a fourth-year head coach. Anybody watching who's been in a profession for more than 4 years know that in your fifth year, you were better than in your fourth year. That's just, again, that's the way things work. I just think that there is such a strong fusion of us and and this is how we can get to what we're going to be. And maybe they needed a lot of these things to happen in order to become this group because they weren't as unified. I'm got something in my eye here. They weren't as unified earlier in the season. Dang, I've got a bug. I got a gnat flying around here and it got right in my eye. I apologize for that. Anyway, they weren't as unified earlier in the year when they were losing those games. Mm-hmm. So
getting down by double digits.
Same things they believe, but it hadn't yet happened. Now it's starting to happen. Excuse me.
But yeah, when you mentioned like
that's
it's a lot easier. You said like they were saying this, but it wasn't happening, and now they're saying it, and it's happening. Validating their thoughts on the team and vindicating what they thought they had said they could reach and the potential they could have, and it's coming at the right time. I mean, you can say yeah.
Like see the bugs? There's like 3 or 4 bugs flying here now. I'm in the bowels of a basketball arena, and one of them got into my eye. Still can't get them out.
I do not. And if anybody out there, please let me know because I can't, but I also am wearing glasses. So clearly my eyes
are gone now, I think.
Very good.
That's wild. That's a first. That's a first right here. What time is it? We're recording this at
1:48 a.m. Eastern.
Maybe this is when the bugs come out. No one's ever done a podcast at 1:48 in the morning before. I think they're gone now because I was swatting pretty hard. Man,
Never know what you're gonna get.
I've never had a bug get my eye on a podcast before. This is almost like live TV, so you never know what you're going to get in one of these THI jobs.
A first for everything, especially at over here at THI. And
it's like it's weird. It kind of tickled. It made me cough. Isn't that weird?
Can't talk, can't see.
I'm a mess. I'm a blithering mess right now. And guess what? I still have 2 more articles to write.
Dude,
I have a noon flight to Milwaukee. So.
We mentioned that it is a day off tomorrow, at least not work wise, but media media day wise, or however you want to refer to it as. But the next step for UNC, we did talk about the validation, comes on Friday. They do have an extra day of rest. So it's not typical for the first 4 format. Usually it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday thing. But that next step to continue that validation and show that like this team is what this team is, and they're here to, for lack of a term, to stay. Comes Friday against Ole Miss, an SEC opponent. I'm sure we'll hear plenty of that before Friday's 4:05 tip, but you will be there. There's an
aggressive one over. I don't even know what kind of bug this is. But this one over here is aggressive, like he's coming back. God, bless America. Well, by the way, Tar Heels charter flight to Milwaukee takes off in 10 minutes at 2 a.m. So they're not. I thought they would stay here and fly in the morning, but no, they're going there.
Especially with the extra day. I thought that'd be a logical thing. If they played Thursday, that would make it a little more sense.
Maybe it's a late night slumber party at the Trimble household.
Yeah, that's right. Let's
popcorn, soda pop in a movie.
Well, I'm sure he will enjoy being back home less than 30 minutes from.
Let's finish this thing because I'm about had it with these guys. There's like 5 of them. Only one of them is come back. Well, he's not. What do you think?
Make sure AJ.
What would a bug be here? I've got this is like where the press conferences are and stuff. Can you imagine if like Hubert's up here doing post game and all of a sudden the bugs are like this and stuff? What a hell of a look that would be for Dayton.
Not a good one, that's for sure. But
maybe
we'll go ahead and get out of here. You'll be there in Milwaukee, 4:05 p.m. Eastern time on Friday.
You're gonna flush my eye out, man. God. Otherwise, I make enough typos as it is. Otherwise, it's going to be typo city for me, man.
And you get you an eye patch. UNC takes on number 6 Ole Miss. You will be there, hopefully, with 2 working eyes and no gnats, bugs of any kind. I'm going
to take bug spray to all 3 things in daily drop videos I do inside arenas from now on. I'm going to have go spray bug spray because I'm going to do a podcast. That's unbelievable.
It works. I
don't even know what kind of. They weren't gnats. They were kind of like gnats, but they were thicker than gnats. I don't know if you have gnats. Do you have gnats in here? I don't know what the heck you have here. I mean, if you look around here, I'll do the camera. You can see the ceiling. I mean, stuff's probably been hanging out, living in here for a long time.
Well, let's hope it's a Dayton only thing, exclusive to Dayton. But I said 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. You will be there in Milwaukee. Again, Fizzer Forum. If that's like I said, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. UNC takes.
This is the longest close to a video in video history.
We're trying here. We got gnats causing all kind of problems, but you'll be there.
It's not a gnat. It's fatter than gnats.
Some sort of bug. Anybody out there who knows and can help us, let us know.
Well, now they're gone. You won't see them. Maybe they're going to follow me to the press room. If they do, I'll sick them on Adam Smith or Michael Coe.
Anyways, 4:05 p.m.
My eye hurts now. It's like stinging.
And in case you didn't know, I've said the start time 3 times. If anybody forgets, just check this video out. You'll be there in Milwaukee. But until then, I'm Bryant.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bryant.